Number 7, Dr. Russell Norman.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question is to the Minister of Energy and Resources and asks, does he stand by all his statements?
Honourable Simon Bridges.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, of course, always within the nuanced context with which they've been given.
Supplementary.
Supplementary question, Dr. Russell Norman.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does he stand by his statement yesterday that he was unaware of Victoria Forest Park, New Zealand's largest forest park, even though he recently opened it up for oil and gas exploration?
Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Simon Bridges.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, because my role and this government's responsibility and commitment has always been, in terms of the conservation estate, to ensure there was no Schedule 4, no national parks and no World Heritage areas, and I took that responsibility exceptionally seriously.
Supplementary.
Supplementary question, Dr. Russell Norman.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Was Victoria Forest Park mentioned in the briefing papers he received about the areas proposed for oil and gas exploration?
Honourable Simon Bridges.
Speaker, no, because what my responsibility was and what the papers briefed me were on was where the conservation land was and the classifications of that. And I took particular note, of course, about the Schedule 4 land, about the national parks and about the World Heritage areas, and also noted that the process in terms of the consultation with local iwi, with councils, and also with the Department of Conservation, who raised no objections in relation to anything, including the forest park.
Supplementary question, Dr. Russell Norman.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Given that he has told the House that he was told of the different kind of classifications, was he told that this area that sits between Nelson Lakes National Park and Kahurangi National Park, that this area was a forest park, and did he inquire as to why the largest forest park in the country was being opened up to oil and gas exploration?
Honourable Simon Bridges.
Well, I think the premise of the question there is a misconception. As I said, what I was undertaking to do was ensure there was none of the utmost sensitive areas in that park. What I was also advised of was that there were various classifications within that. But the Department of Conservation outside of Schedule 4 does not have a hierarchy of conservation land, and so whilst I noted that, I was most concerned about the other, as I say, Schedule 4 national park areas, and ensured that that was not included in any shape or form.
Supplementary.
Supplementary question, Dr. Russell Norman.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Had he heard of the following conservation areas, which just last week he opened up for petroleum exploration? Kakaputahi Ecological Area, Te Wharo Ecological Area, Deep Creek Ecological Area, Mokihinui Forks Ecological Area, Apatotra Ecological Area, Dr. Hill Ecological Area, Mount Harata Ecological Area, Coal Creek Ecological Area, Kanieri Ecological Area,
Order.
3 Mile Hill Ecological Area, Greenstone
Order.
Ecological
Bring it to
Area,
a conclusion.
Mount Richmond Forest Park. Had he heard of any of those areas that he's opened up for oil and gas exploration last week?
Honourable Simon Bridges.
Mr. Speaker, there are over 1,000 such areas, and I hadn't heard of all of them, and one wonders if the member had heard of the 4 permits when he was last in government for coal mining in the Victoria Forest Park, including for open cast coal mining in the area he now purports to be concerned about.
Order. Is it a point of order?
It is a point of order, Mr.
Point of
Speaker.
order, Honourable Trevor Mallard.
Mr. Speaker, I think you've quite rightly ruled on occasions that we should not debate during points of order and answer. But for a minister with this experience to assert that a member who has never been in government has been, as a part of an answer, just shows a level of ignorance that is unacceptable.
Yeah. Order. And the member's made his point. The question was long. It was answered relatively quickly, and the rest of the answer was actually unnecessary to the order of the House. Supplementary question, Dr. Russel Norman.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Has he heard of the following conservation areas which just last week he opened up for petroleum and gas exploration, such as Te Whāro Wildlife Management Area, Orikaka Ecological Area, Bell Hill Granite Hill Ecological Area, Fletcher Creek Ecological Area, Card Creek Ecological Area, Lyle Historic
Order, bring
Reserve,
the question to a conclusion.
White Creek Fault Scientific Reserve, all of these areas that he has now opened up for oil and gas exploration. Did he check out whether any of them were on the list before he signed it
Honourable
off?
Simon Bridges.
I think behind the question is a premise that there shouldn't be any development in these sort of areas, but that wasn't the case when under his watch there were 12 mining permits, including for exploratory petroleum in the very area, the Victoria Forest Park, that he now says there shouldn't be any mining in.
Order. Order. Supplementary question?
No, it's a point of order, Mr. Speaker.
Point of order. 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 Right, Honourable Winston.
Mr. Speaker, Mr. Mallard raised a point of order with you. It's simply that these matters go beyond being debatable, but the Minister repeated his assertion that someone had been a minister or been in government before. He said on his watch.
Order.
He meant that, and it means he comes down here with briefing notes and doesn't have a thing on his feet.
Order. The difficulty I have is with, again, the length of the question. When the question's that long, it's clearly going to invite a fairly answer that's likely to raise the temperature of the House, and that's exactly what happened on that occasion. It would help if the member has further supplementaries. Could he make them concise and to the point? Point of order, Gareth Hughes.
Thanks, Mr. Speaker. It's a different point of order, which is the question wasn't addressed. The Minister simply talked about Dr. Russell Norman's motivations and the premise. He didn't actually say if he'd heard of any of those parts before he opened it up.
Order. No, in my mind, the question was definitely addressed. Are there further supplementaries?
Supplementary.
Supplementary question, Dr. Russell Norman.
Is he aware that Victoria Forest Park, the park he hadn't heard of until yesterday, even though it's the biggest forest park in the country with 200,000 hectares of land that he recently opened up to be exploited for petroleum exploration, has many ecological areas in it, many areas which are defined as pristine by the Department of Conservation and are worthy of protection from his depredations?
Honourable Simon Bridges.
I'm aware of some of those matters, and also that Russell Norman allowed open cast coal mining in that area when he was...
Order! 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 Materia Ture.
Sir, I ask you to ensure that ministers are not entitled to stand up and make blatant lies in this House.
I don't need any... Order. Now, would the Minister stand and answer the question that was asked? He doesn't need the political barb about whether a member was involved in the decision, particularly if that member was not part of a former government. Point of order, Honourable Jerry Brownlee.
Mr. Speaker, you've made the point in the past that where politically loaded questions are asked, they'll get politically loaded answers back. Mr. Speaker, it is a reality that the previous government that did allow open cast mining in these areas, that did allow mining permits in these areas and oil exploration in these areas, could not have stayed in government with the confidence of the House without...
The member can resume his seat. If the Minister wanted to answer along those lines, I would find it acceptable. To simply stand up and attack the Green member is unacceptable, and if the member has an answer to continue with, he should do so. Thank you. Question number 8. Catherine Delahunty.
Tēnā koe, Mr. Speaker, tēnā koutou te whare paramata.